Welcome to Barbara's Bulletin, the podcast where we dive into the latest news and current events from around the world. I'm your host, Barbara, and I'm glad you're joining me today. We have a lot to cover in today's show, but first, let's start with some breaking news. The United States and Iran have resumed nuclear talks in Oman, aiming to reach a new agreement on Tehran's nuclear program. This is the fourth round of negotiations, which began on Sunday, and comes after a week-long pause due to logistical reasons. According to reports, the talks are constructive, but there are still some deep rifts between the two sides. The U.S. is demanding that Iran dismantle its uranium enrichment facilities, which Iran has firmly rejected as a red line. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has criticized the U.S. for its shifting remarks, but still signals that a breakthrough is possible. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump is scheduled to visit the Middle East this week and has intensified his pressure campaign against Iran, imposing new sanctions on its oil industry and threatening to penalize foreign entities that keep purchasing Iranian oil. The U.S. president has vowed to prevent Iran from acquiring a nuclear bomb and is pushing to replace the 2015 deal, which had curbed Tehran's nuclear activities in exchange for sanctions relief. It's worth noting that this development comes as President Trump has also been involved in a controversy over renaming the Persian Gulf, with some reports suggesting he wants to call it the Gulf of America. This move has sparked outrage among Iranians and other countries in the region, who see it as an attempt to erase their cultural heritage. As we continue to follow this story, it's clear that there are many complexities at play. The U.S. and Iran have a long history of tensions, and finding a resolution to the nuclear issue will require careful diplomacy and compromise from both sides. We'll be keeping a close eye on these developments and bringing you updates as more information becomes available. In the meantime, we want to hear from you. What do you think about the U.S.-Iran nuclear talks? Do you think a deal is possible, or are there too many obstacles in the way? We'll be right back with more of today's top news on Barbara's Bulletin. Welcome back to Barbara's Bulletin. We're diving into the world of UK immigration and the government's latest plans to crack down on migration. The Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, has announced that care workers will no longer be recruited from overseas as part of a bid to reduce net migration. This move is expected to cut up to 50,000 lower-skilled workers coming to the UK over the next year. Now let's take a closer look at the details. The government plans to unveil a series of changes to visa and recruitment laws on Monday, which will require care companies to recruit from domestic workers or extend visas of overseas workers already in the UK. This change is aimed at making care jobs more attractive to UK workers and reducing the reliance on overseas labor. It's worth noting that successive governments have struggled to reduce net migration, which reached a record high of 906,000 in June 2023. The opposition has criticized the government's plans, with Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp saying they don't go far enough and calling for an annual cap on migration. As we consider these developments, it's essential to remember that immigration is a complex issue with many facets. On one hand, reducing net migration can help alleviate pressure on public services and infrastructure. On the other hand, it's crucial to ensure that any changes do not harm the care sector or other industries that rely on international workers. The government has also announced plans to make changes to rules around international students and graduates, aiming to improve standards and compliance within universities. This move is likely to impact the education sector and may have implications for the UK's reputation as a hub for international students. As we weigh the pros and cons of these developments, it's clear that finding a balance between controlling migration and supporting key industries will be a significant challenge for the government. We'll continue to monitor this story and provide updates as more information becomes available. Stay tuned for our final story of the day, right here on Barbara's Bulletin. Welcome back to Barbara's Bulletin. We're wrapping up today's show with a look at the latest news from around the world. From international relations to business and culture, we've got you covered. First off, let's talk about the highly anticipated meeting between Iranian and U.S. negotiators in Muscat, Oman. Nishtai Nedir or Tal. The two sides will be discussing Tehran's nuclear program, with the goal of reaching a new deal and avoiding future military action. This is a complex issue, with both countries having deeply divided views on several key points. We'll be keeping a close eye on this story as it develops. In other news, Japanese discount chain Don Quijote is experiencing a surge in sales, thanks to its cult status among tourists. The store's unique offerings, which range from snacks to souvenirs, have made it a must-visit destination for many visitors to Japan. This is an interesting example of how international tourism can impact local businesses and economies. Meanwhile, investors are watching closely as the U.S. and China prepare to resume trade talks in Switzerland. The meeting could mark one of the biggest developments since President Trump launched sweeping tariffs on April 2nd, which have thrown the global trade landscape into chaos. We'll be monitoring this situation closely, as it has significant implications for economies around the world. In sports news, we have an update from the world of baseball. And in culture, a stolen Buddha statue has been returned to Japan after being recovered in South Korea. The statue is a significant cultural artifact, and its return is being seen as a major victory for preservation efforts. Finally, let's take a look at some other stories making headlines today. A high school student has been arrested in connection with the deaths of their grandparents, and Emperor Emeritus has been diagnosed with a health condition. Japan's first dinosaur department has also opened at a university in Fukui, offering students a unique opportunity to study these prehistoric creatures. That's all for today's Barbara's Bulletin. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, stay engaged.